How's it going, everybody? I'm back again to talk to you about org mode, specifically when it comes to productivity, task management, as well as using org mode as your agenda or calendar. Org mode for me has been a huge game changer when it comes to productivity. For me personally, I have ADHD, so I have a really hard time managing tasks to get done. There's a lot of things that come with that. And one of the things that has been a huge help to this has been org mode, specifically when it comes to what I was talking about before: calendar, product management, task management, a lot of other features that org comes natively with have been really helpful for me. And so in this video, we're going to go from a very surface level understanding of org mode, and then we're going to build up to some of the more advanced features, talk a bit about how I use org mode and how I use it to manage my time, which is obviously, like I mentioned before, been a huge improvement, and a lot more of the slightly more advanced features that I tend to use day to day. Now, if you at any point feel overwhelmed with this video is not meant to say that this is everything you should do. It's just meant to be a point where you can kind of see where you would start and then slowly escalate into including some of these more advanced features in your workflows. All right, so just hopping into things, let's talk about productivity. So what actually is productivity? Well, productivity, put simply, there's kind of the definition right here, but the main idea is that it's basically producing a large amount of work in a smaller amount of time. Forgive me for simplifying, but that's just kind of the general idea that we can apply day to day, since the definition refers to a worker, a company, and a country producing goods and an amount of products, yada, yada, yada. But the main idea is that you want to produce an amount of work in a smaller amount of time. Now, this is obviously a really silly breakdown, but basically, what do we need in order to be able to do that? Well, we need a way to get things done fast. Obviously, Emacs solves that. And then we also need a way to kind of schedule, plan, and keep track of this work that we are doing. So why are we using org mode? Well, the real answer is org mode is forever. It's easy to get started with. As I've showed in my previous video, it has a lot of functionality when it comes to to-dos. In addition to that, it kind of has stood the test of time. There's been a ton of different clients for to-dos and calendars, and org mode has kind of stood and stayed around for a long, long time. So I'm not really worried about it going away in my lifetime, as I mentioned down here. In addition, the alternatives on the market just really don't seem to like fit the same niche, and Emacs seems to have infinite extensibility. So why would you really have to worry about switching to something new when you can always add those features that you're missing if you really want them? Now, why not just use a simple to-do task manager? Well, the big issue is that it can become very overwhelming as tasks build up. Org mode provides a solution to this using a bunch of different things. So org mode provides timestamps, which you can use to set deadlines, schedule time to work on a task, create a plain old event, and a way to use timestamps to kind of manage your progress on the different things you're working on. In addition, it provides priority management, which is pretty common amongst the to-do apps, just in case you were wondering, as well as tagging, which is also pretty common. It also provides useful things like effort estimation. So say, for example, I'm working on a ticket for work. I think it's going to take 2 days, and I can estimate that, and it can kind of help me identify how much more time I need to put into a task and how much time I need to set aside for it. In addition, it provides an option for habit tracking. So if for something like maybe washing your bed sheets, maybe paying your taxes, a bunch of stuff like that, things that are repeating and maybe don't have an exact time that you need to do them, you can kind of set those up with org mode. So I use them for a bunch of different things. For example, I try to do a little bit of leak code on the side. I try to at least do some 1 hour of leak code per week. And I have a habit that basically says at least once a week at some day in the week at some time I need to work on my leak code just for future employment, as well as just kind of keeping sharp on algorithms and data structures. And it has a whole bunch more. Now, why don't we just use a simple calendar like Google Calendar or Apple Calendar or something like that? Well, in a lot of cases, it is kind of enough, but it isn't enough to fit every workflow. For example, if I want to share my calendar, sometimes there's an option for it, but other times there isn't. With org mode, there are literally thousands of ways that you can export, share different dates, share individual dates, share your availability, a bunch of different stuff. So that's always nice. But a lot of these options offer that. And in a lot of those cases, a calendar might be enough. For example, a dentist visit, but sometimes I need more context. Sometimes a calendar event has maybe a task involved, like it's someone's birthday and I want to get them a gift. Just putting get them a gift in my calendar isn't really going to help me. Maybe I have some notes on what gifts are good for this person, what I got them previous years for inspiration, a bunch of stuff like that. I need more context sometimes. And this is where the calendars kind of fall short. But this is a huge advantage with org mode. Org mode offers you a ton of different ways to share context with different things. In a different application, there usually isn't a way to do this. You can usually put some details and then maybe just links to different URLs, but you kind of lose the ability to kind of share different things, especially when you have a lot of notes and you need to share them with your calendar, and maybe you have different tasks that you put in your to-do application. You kind of end up sort of branching them together and they don't really work well, versus org mode puts all of this into one. This has kind of been the big reason that I never stuck with Google Keep, Google Calendar, or Obsidian, is mostly just because they kind of lack this functionality. Like, for example, example, Obsidian doesn't really make for a good calendar. It's not really focused on that. Google Keep obviously isn't very good for calendar applications and relies on you using Google Calendar, but then there was also Google Tasks, which is meant for more task management, and you end up kind of mixing them together, and it doesn't really play all that well besides like a very surface level use case. Now let's go through a really quick example use case. So say we're going through my calendar and we see, oh, I have a product demo today. Well, I could set up a really quick demo just like this. So let's say I have some files in a particular Git commit that I want to show off. So let's say right here, I've got a little link to a commit right here. And if I do Control-C, Control-O, it will open up that exact file, and I can kind of show like, oh, I changed this, and it will link back. So say, for example, if I want to show the before and the after, I could use this get link functionality. In addition, you can obviously make links to just regular files. I just thought this was a useful use case that I actually use quite a lot. Now, since I take notes while I do my work and I use my notes for my task management, I can actually link to the particular notes that I was working on. So for example, right here, I have a link to a particular task I was working on. So if I do Control-C, Control-O, it will open that task, and I can show off like, here's like my notes from the task. So maybe if I want to show off like the work that I've done, I can kind of go here, as well as I actually put a link in my notes to the actual GitHub issue, just in case I want to reference that in my demo. Now, in addition, I can leave notes on the product setup. So if I want to show off maybe some extra setup that's needed for my demo, then I could put it here. In this case, it's just going to echo hello world, and I could do Control-C, Control-C to execute that. But in reality, you'd maybe have like some extra stuff, like say if I needed to set up a Docker environment or something like that, I'd put that here. In addition, if I wanted to kind of show off what work I'd done each day, or if I want to be able to reflect on it, then I can take advantage of the to-do functionality. So for example, if I wanted to go and open this, you'll see that all of these done tasks are marked with a close date. This is automatically done when changing something from to-do to done. So if I change this to to-do, you'll see that it's just in the to-do state. And if I change it to Control-C, Control-T and do done, then you'll see that it adds a closed, and so I can show my project each day that I was working on this product. If that was a little overwhelming to you, don't worry. The idea is very simple. It's basically just, what did we do? We had links to different things like a file, a link to a note, a command that we want to be able to run very easily, and finally a link where I was just kind of showing off the ability to show off what work has been done. And if you're worried about, oh, how do I even create these links? It seems like a huge pain. Don't worry. You can simply just go to any file. So let's say that we want to make a link to this code right here. I can do Control-C, L, which is actually running org store link. And then I can just do Control-C, Control-L in an org file, and it will let me insert a link. And I can save the description, and boom, we have inserted our link right there. I just wanted to pop in really quickly to talk about today's sponsor, Brilliant. In this video, I talk about making a habit of learning, and nothing to me has made it easier than Brilliant. Brilliant is an online learning platform focused on introducing you to multiple different concepts in a fun, interactive game setting. One course that's taken my interest a lot recently has been their brand new course on modeling with multiple variables. It's a very good introduction for those of you that are a little advanced in data science and want to apply that into machine learning. From there, they also have lots of courses on different machine learning concepts like large language models, which I highly recommend checking out as well. Each lesson is broken up into interactive games where you can work with real-world problems and apply your new learning as you go. If furthering your knowledge or career in any of these fields interests you, be sure to check out Brilliant. Thanks again to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. To try everything Brilliant has to offer now for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/GavinFreeborn, or click on the link in the description below. In addition, you'll also get 20% off Brilliant's premium annual subscription. Now let's go into some of the different features that you can actually use with org mode that I find extremely powerful just day to day when it comes to productivity. So for example, there is the agenda. Now getting set up is really straightforward. You just need to set a directory for your org files. This is pretty useful. And then you need to set a set of agenda files. For me, I just make it every single file in my org directory. You could do something special if you just want to set your org agenda files to be just a specific subset or maybe just one file. But I like to just use every file in my org directory because it works fine for me. Now, in addition, you'll want to be able to preview it. So I have a little key binding set right here that just basically lets me set a key binding to check my agenda at any time. And so if I do Control-C, A, you'll see that there is a bunch of different templates, but the simplest one is just the normal agenda for the current week. So if I hit A, you'll see that there is a little breakdown for all the different things I need to do throughout the week. Now, in addition, it comes with a bunch of other stuff. So you can do Control-C-A, and you'll see that there's a way to just list all your to-dos. You can match against different tags, priorities, properties, to-dos. You can do a full text search. You can do a ton of different ones. I have my own ones. So for example, if I want to check my habits, I can do H, and it will list all of my habits that I need to work on. So my LeetCode, journaling, or studying machine learning. Or I could do Control-C-A, and it will give me stuff like my Kanban board, which is just for work. It'll have all my stuff, and I can say whether I'm doing something's in review or when it's done. And there's a bunch of different stuff. If you guys want me to dig into it, I would happily love to dig into the different use cases and the different templates that I use for my org agenda. Now, one of the things that makes org and org agenda so useful is its built-in features when it comes to timestamps. Timestamps are a first-class feature in org mode and often something that you'll find yourself using in your notes. There is a idea of a deadline, a scheduled time. So for example, if I do Control-C-S, it will prompt me to enter a schedule, or Control-C, Control-D. It will prompt me to enter a deadline. So let's say it's due tomorrow. And you'll see that it enters in both of those. In addition, you just have a regular timestamp, which you can just enter using Control-C dot, as you can see down there. So each of these have a different meaning. So deadline is for when something is due, schedule is for when something is supposed to be worked on, and then obviously a timestamp is just for when something is about to happen, so like an event. Now you can quickly kind of jump to these in your agenda just by clicking them, which is quite useful. Let's go a bit more into the actual simplicity and power that they offer. Inserting timestamps is pretty straightforward. If you do just Control-C dot, you will get prompted to enter any timestamp, and it basically allows you to enter very generic ideas. So if I want to say Tuesday, like I show up there, it will enter an event on Tuesday, or I could do Control-C dot, Jan 15, 2 p.m., and it will insert a timestamp for that. So it's pretty flexible and pretty intuitive. Now, in addition, this is something that I've used in the past, is for when I'm in university, I can just get the actual like breakdown for the syllabus and take all of the different things and create a simple macro to kind of make a little entry for the event of every exam or every assignment that's due. And so we can kind of do that here. So even though these are all different formats, the format would be pretty straightforward when it comes to a macro. So I could do Control-X parentheses, and it will start a macro. I can just do Control-K, Control-C dot, Control-Y, enter, and then Control-X, Control-E to execute, 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 execute. And as you can see, in spite of the fact that all of these are different formats for the timestamp, so for example, just +1 is just 1 hour. Some of them are in 24-hour clock. Some of them are in AM, PM. It's able to be really intuitive about figuring out how to insert all of these correctly. Now, there's other timestamps, like I mentioned, Control-C, Control-S, Control-C, Control-D. Both have their meanings that I talked about before. All right, now moving on to capture. So org capture is a way to write really simple templates for kind of capturing different ideas, tasks, events within an instant, couple keystrokes, and you're there. So there's a couple really useful ones that I highly recommend you try out. Obviously, there's generic to-do tasks. So here's kind of my template, and I just do Control-C, Control-C to get to my capture. I can just hit T to do a to-do task, and it automatically inserts a link to whatever I'm looking at, as well as prompting me for what I want to mention. Now, in addition, there is the actual time blocking. So time blocking is a way for me to sort of say like, okay, I'm going to work on something that maybe isn't a task that I've entered into my notes, or maybe I want to link to it. But this is kind of just a really quick way for me to kind of set a little time range for me to work on something. So here's kind of my template that I use. Feel free to give me feedback if you have any ideas. So I can just do Control-C, Control-C, schedule, time block. And then it says like work on thing or work on it at this time for 1 hour, +1. There you go. And then we'll work on it for 1 hour, and then we could capture that, and that will be added to my time blocked tasks. Next, we have general events. These are ones that I use quite a lot for, say, for example, something that is happening at work, at home, or school. We'll kind of show that off in just a sec, but sort of different things where it's like happening somewhere and I don't have anything I need to do with it. I just need to have it in my calendar so I see that it's happening at that time. So my template for that is the event template. So I could do Control-C, C, and then you'll see right here, I have schedule event. And then it will prompt me to ask me where the event is happening. Obviously, I could enter it in manually. Let's just say for now it's happening at work. And then it says go to work party. And then we can capture that. And it will be stored, as you can see right down here, it's stored in mylife.org. Now, I know this is a lot of templates. Don't worry, this is obviously overkill. This is just to give you guys some ideas of what you guys can use. I like to have a lot of templates because I kind of just like to not really think too much about what I'm doing. I just like to think, oh, this is a meeting, oh, this is an event, and I usually don't really worry about it too much. If it's not categorized perfectly, most of the time the overlap is enough that it's not going to hurt my productivity. So for meetings, it's pretty much the same idea. These ones are actually time blocked, but they say where the event is happening as well as having, usually some small extra features, but not really in this case. So Control C, schedule meeting, work, and then it's meeting with, and it kind of like tags it as a meeting, which can be kind of useful for my notes. Usually I add extra stuff in here for, like, say for example, a link to the Zoom link if it's on Zoom, or Teams if we're using Microsoft Teams, that sort of stuff. Now we're going to go ahead and cancel that because I don't really have any desire to add a new meeting to my agenda. Now you want a general knowledge capture. For me, I have a bunch of different stuff. So if I do Control C, okay, I have cool things, thing I learned, ideas, thoughts, word I learned, just a bunch of different general knowledge capture things just for like later review. And these are all just kind of thrown in my refile file, which I use to kind of later on, I'll kind of organize it a bit better and kind of move these into the appropriate files. Next, we have some email specific ones. I won't really show these off, but basically whenever I'm in MU4E, I can actually have a little follow-up or a read later entry, and it will actually take the email that I'm looking at in MU4E and kind of create an entry for it in the follow-up or read later sections if I create a capture while I'm looking at mail. And finally, for those of you that are interested, here's all of my org capture stuff. You guys can go ahead and check that out in the link below. Now we're into integration with other programs. So first one is getting your calendar on your phone. This is actually relatively straightforward because org mode has a really simple way to export to iCal. So if I do Control C, Control E, this is the org export interface. You'll see that there is an actual way to export to iCalendar, which is what a lot of calendar programs will take as input. But in this case, we can just do it using Emacs Lisp by just setting some extra options. These are just my preferred options for what I want to show in my agenda. And it will actually export this and copy the created iCalendar onto my remote server following this path. And then I can use an application on my phone called ICSX to the power of 5. I'm not really too sure if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, which will actually allow me to sync to this remote file. If you guys want to learn more about this, let me know. This is just a really simple way to kind of sync my calendar on my phone. It's only one-way sync, which I kind of prefer. I'd rather have just like the general stuff be handled that way and let me use Orgsly for just kind of task management stuff. I usually don't add new events for my phone, but that can happen sometimes. And usually this is just kind of for general stuff. If I want to be able to share my calendar with other people, this is an easy way to do this. In addition, you can import iCalendar. There's a bunch of different implementations for this. And here's a little script that I've kind of written up, which you can kind of use to get your Google Calendar entry. There's a way to create a public URL for a Google Calendar. Right here, I just use pass to kind of password protect it. But if I wanted to, I could kind of export these just doing Control C, Control C. And we will be exporting these, and it will basically take these calendars and turn them into org files. So once this is all done, we'll see in just a sec. Hopefully this works out. If we go here, you'll see that there is a bunch of different entries. I'm going to go ahead and close that because you guys don't need to really look at my different events that are in my Google Calendar. But you can kind of use this for a bunch of different calendars on the internet if you guys kind of want to be able to share events back and forth between, say, your Google Calendar or something else. And this is a really easy way to do that. And then this is just a general calendar that you can use, which is just for different holidays. You're going to want to go to Google Calendar and kind of look up how to do this. But there's a few implementations in order to be able to do this. There's a Go version and an awk version. I find the awk version works pretty well, but the Go version also works really well if that's more appealing to you. If you want something more powerful than this, then you can use CalDAV. CalDAV allows you to do two-way sync. And the way that it works is you'd use a program called org CalDAV, set some extra stuff up. So you have to say like the calendar ID, the URL for your CalDAV, what file it's going to go into, a bunch of other stuff, kind of just for synchronizing them, time zone that you're in. And then the command to sync is what I just have here just to avoid loading this when I don't need it. This is really awesome. I've used it before with Nextcloud, and you guys can give that a try as well. There's a bunch of people that actually host Nextcloud for you if you want to try this out without, say, for example, setting up a remote server. That's always an option. Now, I don't mention it here, but I recommend checking out Orgsly. Orgsly is an Android application. There's an iPhone application. I'll be sure to throw it in the description if I remember what it is. That allows you to kind of integrate with org mode on your phone rather than using all these different methods. I like to use these as well as using orgsly personally. While orgsly is great for like taking notes and kind of reviewing them, sometimes it's nice to just be able to check your notes from a calendar application. And now we're on to notifications. So this kind of gets a little complicated because there's a lot of different approaches. Org Notify, I see mentioned quite a lot. Org Yap, I've used before, which is actually, I've had a lot of success with it. I obviously, as an Emacs user, felt obligated to roll my own solution, sort of, using the built-in package called apt. In addition, I wanted to have these notifications also sent to my phone, just in case I'm like in the washroom or something and I'm about to miss a meeting. And I used something called Notify. You guys can go ahead and check this link out. I'll have it in the description or in the show notes for you guys to check out. Apt is a way for me to kind of check my appointments that are coming up. It will kind of notify me. And I have some extra little cheats. So here, when it goes to display my appointments, I created a custom function called myAptDisplay. And basically the idea is pretty straightforward. We require notifications, which uses your operating system specific notifications. Right here, I'm basically just saying if there was a notification already created, close that notifications. That way I'm not getting like a buildup of all these notifications for every minute leading up to my appointment. And then right here, I have some extra stuff just to kind of make a bit more nice like notifications for myself. And then right here, we actually create a notification using the notify function. We give it the title of the notification, the body of the notification, and the urgency level. And then here I used please. There's a built-in library in Emacs for doing HTTP requests. But here I just did a post on the please URL, give it the same title, the same priority, tag it as a calendar. This allows me to actually send these notifications to my phone, which is pretty powerful. And then right here, I basically activate the checking for appointments. And then I do a quick little way to say like, take my org agenda and turn them into appointments. And then I set up a little timer right here to create my own org appointments. This is completely overkill. I recommend trying one of the existing solutions first, but for those of you who like me like to kind of hack solutions together, you might find this useful. Or maybe if you want to kind of add some extra functionality to those existing solutions and maybe want to try using Notify to send these notifications to your phone, then this might be helpful for you. One of the benefits of my approach is that it requires well, that's not very true. I was going to say it requires a little setup, but obviously, as you can tell, I did a lot of custom setup, but in my head, I thought this was very simple. In practice, questionable, but I figured I'd share what I use because it's not very fair for me to just say, oh, use one of these solutions that I don't actually use anymore. But OrgYap is probably the one that I would recommend had the most success with. Now, another thing that I think is worth mentioning is avoiding conflicts in your agenda. Now, there's actually a library that somebody wrote a while ago called org conflict, which you guys can check out at this link right here. There's a little FAQ for it, as well as an entry in the mailing list where the person was announcing it. I don't really use this anymore, but if you guys are interested in avoiding conflicts in your agenda, I personally just check manually. I know that's kind of silly. Maybe I should be using this, but I don't have it in my current workflow, but I figured it was worth mentioning. And next, we finally have searching my agenda. So in this case, searching, there's a bunch of different ways. Like I showed before, you could do Control-C-A. And right here, you can search for keywords, or you could do an occur. There's a ton of different ways that you can go ahead and search your agenda. But if I want to do full text search, I actually use a package called Consult Recall, which allows me to kind of do full text searching in all of my documents. So I can do Control-C-R, and this will kind of run recall. And I can do, say, for example, wish list. And it will actually pull up a bunch of different stuff. And you'll see that it searches like even PDFs as well and images, which is really powerful. But I try to just limit it to org files, as you can see right here, and I can hit down, enter, and boom, it will take me to my wish list. Pretty powerful, pretty straightforward. And like I mentioned, there's the org agenda interface, but it is rather slow for the full text searching. And I kind of just really like the ability to just search everything really easily. And in conclusion, I hope that you guys found this video useful as a way to boost your productivity and kind of understand how you guys can improve your task management. If you guys are interested in learning more about org mode, be sure to check out my other videos, or let me know in the comments if there's something that you'd like to learn more about. If there's a feature that you maybe wish org had, let me know in the comments, because I'm almost certain there's a way to use it or implement it. So I would be happy to learn about these ideas that you guys have. If you guys have ways that I can improve my workflow, let me know. And I hope that you guys learned a lot in this video. If you guys already use org mode, I hope that you learned something new. And before I go, I want to shout out my supporters on Patreon. I appreciate everything you guys are doing for me. It really means a lot for the channel. They really help me be able to actually keep these videos coming. And it just really helps to be able to see this as another source of income rather than a side project that I can put on the side and not put enough effort into. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys learned something, and I will see you next time.